Hello, everybody. This is Mr. Combs. And in this video, I want to talk about appealing to audiences. So, we talked in the last video when we were talking about argument that when you argue, especially in college or in the academy, as we say, you want to try to convince your reader that what you say is true. Sometimes you want to change the mind of your reader so that they will think like you do, so that they will have the same belief about your subject that you do. But most of the time, we just want to present our claim and have our audience, the people reading our argument or viewing our argument, to say, yes, we accept that what you say is a version of the truth. We feel the way we feel, but we accept that you feel this way and it's a valid way to feel. So, how do we get audiences to agree with us or to see our point of view as valid? Well, we appeal to them. And when I say appealing to audiences, what I mean is convincing an audience that what I have said is true, that my point of view is correct or is acceptable and valid. Like I said before, sometimes you will even change your audience's mind. Sometimes they will feel one way, but then after reading your argument or after viewing your argument, they will say, hey, I never thought about it that way. And yeah, they will agree with you, right? So that's the best we can hope for. The least we can hope for is that when we make an argument, that our audience will just see our point of view as valid. And the way we do that is we appeal to audiences. So again, when I say appealing to an audience, what I mean is convincing that audience that your argument is true or that your argument is valid. So let's talk about how we might do that. How might we convince our audience? Well, Aristotle in the 4th century BCE, in his treatise Rhetoric, identified 3 key ways writers can appeal to their audiences. Now, Aristotle was a Greek philosopher, and here is a bust of Aristotle. And the 3 ways that he talked about are pathos, ethos, and logos. Now, we're going to talk about these individually, and we're going to talk about how we refer to those in English, but these are the Greek words, and it's important to know those as well. So, pathos, ethos, and logos. We're going to talk about pathos first, because I think pathos is all around you. Advertisers who are trying to get you to buy products or to vote a certain way or to watch a certain program or to see a certain film, they will use emotional appeals, which is what pathos stands for. Pathos stands for emotion. So when you use pathos, you appeal to an audience's emotions. So, and I think that advertisers use pathos more than the other two. Although now that I say that, I don't know. Maybe they do, maybe not. But let's go with that for now. Yeah, I think advertisers like to appeal to emotion because I think that's when you get the strongest response. So emotional appeals use words and images that evoke certain emotions in readers in order to move them to sympathize with the writer's ideas. So, for example, have you ever seen an organization who is, or an organization that is trying to get money to feed hungry children, and they have a commercial on TV where there's a spokesperson standing there, and in the background there are children, or there are images of malnourished children up on the screen as they're talking about how for just the price of a cup of coffee you can help feed a hungry child or help give this child something to eat. And they use those pictures because that creates an emotional response by the audience, right? By the target of that commercial, the targets of that commercial. Also, here's another sort of emotional appeal that I heard one time in an advertisement. Imagine your daughter's smile as she holds her first Barbie doll, right? So that's causing you as a parent to have an emotional response, a happy response. Yes, my daughter will be happy if she gets a new toy, if she gets a Barbie doll. I want her to have this Barbie doll. It might even, or I want her to be happy. So I'm going to, one way to do that, this argument is suggesting is to give her her first Barbie doll. So I'm going to do that. One way that that might make you feel, that second line might make you feel, is nostalgic as a parent. You might remember to your first toy that is seen as a rite of passage. So I'm sort of thinking about my first toy that I got, that is sort of a toy that every guy, every boy has, and that was Tonka trucks. I can remember when I got my first Tonka trucks for Christmas, and we my brother and I played Tonka trucks all the time. We had a big sand pile out in my grandpa's backyard, and we took them out, as soon as we could, and started playing in those, and that made me happy, and I was able to talk about that with other people at school, and everybody sort of had their Tonka trucks, and so I felt like I was part of something. So seeing this commercial or hearing these words, I might think, yeah, I sort of feel like I remember when I got my first special toy, and I want my daughter to feel that way. And I don't have any children, so I don't know. Maybe parents don't want their children to feel happy, but I suspect they do. So there are two questions that you can ask yourself when you approach emotional appeals, or when you sort of investigate arguments to see how pathos is being used, or when you decide to use emotional appeals in your own writing. And the first question is, how does the argument make me feel, or how is the argument supposed to make me feel? What emotions are supposed to be solicited by this argument? And then also you can think in this way. You can think about what emotional need is the argument meeting. So, for example, how am I supposed to feel? So when I see malnourished, children, um, how am I supposed to feel? Well, I'm supposed to feel sad, probably concerned, maybe angry or disappointed that there are situations where children are not given enough to eat, or when they don't have enough to eat, right? So that's the emotional response that the pictures of those children by the organization that's trying to get aid, that's the emotional response that I have. All right. I think that I'm supposed to have. Now, sometimes people don't have the response that the argument, whatever it is trying to get you to have. That's fine. The other question you can ask, like I said, is what emotional need is being met? So imagine your daughter's smile as she holds her first Barbie doll. So as a parent, I guess, because like I said, I'm not a parent, but as a parent, you probably have an emotional need or a want. You can think about these as needs or wants. But you probably have a need to provide your child with happy experiences, enjoyable experiences in their life. So, this argument, buy a Barbie doll for your daughter. Think of your daughter's smile. Imagine her smile as she holds her first Barbie doll. That's meeting that emotional need that I have as a parent to provide my children with happy experiences, with good life experiences, to see them happy, to make them happy. I have a need to see that as a parent. So, this argument, buying, the fact that you should buy your daughter a Barbie doll, is meeting that need that you might have as a parent. So when you approach arguments that use pathos or when you use pathos yourself in your own arguments, think about what need is being met and think about what emotions or what feelings you want the reader to have, or what feelings the argument causes you to have. Now, emotional appeals can make facts and logical claims stronger. So if I have some facts about, let's say that I'm in this commercial where the children are malnourished, and I have some facts about how many kids have been able to get meals based on the work this organization has done before, or I maybe have a statistic, a percentage of the amount of kids in the world who go to bed hungry each night, or who go one day without eating a meal. Those are strong arguments. Those are logical claims, facts, and statistics. We're going to talk about that later on in this video. Those would be examples of logos, logical claims. But if you pair those logical claims with the pictures, that's creating an emotional response, sort of like a double barrel shotgun, right? It's hitting the reader where they think and where they feel. So emotional appeals can make facts and logical claims stronger. However, you don't want to over implement or overuse pathos. I say here that it's risky. Have you ever been in, or maybe you've thought this yourself, or been in the room with someone when one of those commercials come on? I can remember there's a commercial, and I know what I'll do is I will put a link to this commercial in our folder for this week. But I can remember I was with some people, and the commercial that plays Sarah McLachlan's "Arms of an Angel" song, when you see the animals, one dog without a leg, one dog that's skin and bones, one cat that's missing an eye or something, and it's trying to get you to give money. Somebody that was sitting around watching TV with me said, those animals never see that. That doesn't go to help animals. That goes to pay some CEO. Well, that's a person who clearly has not been bought in, or clearly does not buy into those emotional appeals, or clearly feels maybe a little bit manipulated, feels like they're using those on purpose. So you always want to make sure that your use of pathos always seems sincere. You don't want to come off as manipulating the audience. So you can use emotional appeals to connect with your readers, to show them you understand their experiences, or you have had experiences similar to theirs. That's another use of emotional appeals. And one way to do this is something called narrative as means. And narrative as means is one of the easiest and most effective strategies you can use as a writer. So all narrative means, I guess, is telling a story to prove a point. So it's relating a story, but not just for the story's sake, but to show a point that you're making. And it's one of the easiest and most effective ways that you can use an emotional appeal. So, for example, if you're going to argue that the advising process at your college needs to change, you may tell the story of a student who was negatively affected by the advising process. Talk about the student, give the student a name, explain exactly what happened. The student worked with an advisor who really didn't know what that person was doing, who really didn't know what he or she was doing. And the student ended up having to graduate a year later than they had anticipated because of this advising mess up, or advising mistake that the advisor made. That is a story. It gives me somebody as the reader to identify with, to visualize, and it also illustrates that, yes, the advising process at my college needs to change. Now, I think that we do a pretty good job of advising here at HCTC, so I'm not trying to suggest anything. But that's an example of narrative as means. use narrative as means, and especially use narrative as means in this first essay. And more about the first essay coming up. You can also use humor to appeal to audiences emotionally. Humor can put the readers at ease. You can try to make the readers laugh. And it can put the reader at ease when used while arguing a point that readers may find difficult to accept. It can be the sugar that helps the medicine go down. It can also help the writer deal with sensitive material. You'll see comedians do this all the time. If a comedian wants to make a point about a controversial issue, they will probably first try to tell some jokes, get the audience laughing, make everybody sort of feel at ease, and then come in with their point that they're trying to make. However, humor that is in poor taste should never be used in argument because it discredits the writer. So you shouldn't use humor that, and that's in poor taste, but I guess what I'm trying to think about here is that it's often hard to decide what is in poor taste. But I think that whenever we see something that's in poor taste, we know that it is, right? So if you're writing something, especially in this class, and it's controversial, you use humor, but then if maybe if you have a thought that maybe I shouldn't use that, or maybe I shouldn't say that, ask me. You can if you want, but if you think about it and you say maybe I shouldn't use that, that might be a sign that maybe you should try to tone it down a little bit. I know sometimes people use humor that's in poor taste, and I hate to admit it, but sometimes humor that is in poor taste is actually funny. But when you're arguing, especially in college and in academics, it will always discredit you. Someone may laugh, but at the end of the laughter, they will say they shouldn't have said that. Think about comedians that have gotten in trouble, um, by society, or think about comedians that have said something sometime that sort of turned you off or made you step aside and say, "What? Now, wait a minute. They probably shouldn't have said that." That's the kind of stuff you don't want to use in arguments. Because ultimately our goal in an argument is to not turn the reader off. The goal is to cause the reader to accept what we have to say. So if you have some humor that's in poor taste, certainly do not use things like racial slurs or stereotypes. Don't use things that are very, humor that's very crude, um, because that will just turn off your readers possibly, rather than put them at ease, or cause them to align with your point of view. So I want to look at a couple of examples and talk about those, and then we'll look at some more examples, but I'll give you a chance to respond. So here is the first. These are a couple of advertisements, and these are from PETA, the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. And I know this first lady in the sort of bluish purple outfit. That is Shirley Manson, and the reason why I know her is because I grew up in the 90s and I listened to the band Garbage. And Garbage, they had a song called Stupid Girl, right? They had another song, I'm not sure if this was the title, I think it was, I'm Only Happy When It Rains. But she was the front for Garbage. She was the lead singer. And so she says, "Here's the rest of your fur coat." And she's holding up, I think, a mink there. And then I'm not sure who this other lady is, and I can't read that. I can't read the writing there. But she's holding up a fox, it looks like. So they both say, "Here's the rest of your fur coat." So think about this as using an emotional appeal. What feelings am I supposed to have after seeing this? How am I supposed to feel after I see this? Well, I think that you're supposed to feel, as the audience, grossed out, right? You're supposed to feel like, nasty. This is nasty. Yuck. Right? So the advertisers here, PETA, they are trying to appeal to our sense of not wanting to feel gross, right? Or to see gross things. This is sort of icky or nasty. Also think about what need is being met. Well, as a human being, I have a need to think that I am caring and that I don't like suffering. I don't like to see suffering. I don't like to see people or animals or whatever in pain. I don't like to see pain and suffering. I'm against pain and suffering. And as a, I think, regular human being, that's what these advertisements are appealing to. They're appealing to people who think of themselves as people who do not like to see pain and suffering. So, what they're going to do is they're going to show us pain and suffering that happens when you wear fur or when you purchase fur. This is what has to happen first for you to be able to wear fur. So, don't participate in fashion that uses fur. Don't wear fur. Don't purchase fur, right? So I think that's the emotion that this or this the need that these advertisements are playing on, the need to feel like I am a person who doesn't like to see pain and suffering. I don't want to see pain and suffering. Now, there may be people out there who do want to see pain and suffering, who do want things to suffer. But we generally think about those people as sort of off balance or not society or not normal society, right? All right, let's look at this next one. And I think this is just a hoot because this is, I think, for it's not Nicorette, but it's some sort of smoking cessation product, gum, or I don't think it's a pill. I think maybe it's gum or something. So, this obviously, the message here is to stop smoking. And obviously, this person is not 42. I mean, maybe, but I don't think so. This is an exaggeration. And I think it's using humor, right? Using humor to convey the fact that smoking will cause premature aging. Now, the advertisers here could have just put in words on a black background, smoking causes premature aging. That is logical, right? You might think, well, I don't want to look like I'm older than I am, so I'm going to stop smoking. But think about how much more effective this image is, this emotional appeal is when it's paired with those words, right? And it's humorous. This woman is obviously not 42, but it's an exaggeration that sort of makes me laugh. It makes me laugh anyway. And then after I'm done laughing, I sort of think about the message here, right? Maybe I should stop smoking. All right. Awesome, awesome. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a few other advertisements and other arguments and ask you to ask those two questions. To what specific emotions do the following arguments appeal? So, when you arrive at the answer to this question, you're going to ask those other two questions. One, how am I supposed to feel after seeing this argument? And what need is being met? What need does the argument meet? So, what I'm going to do is allow you to write about this a little bit in your journal, and then I'll tell you some thoughts that I have. Okay. I'll also give you a chance to respond online. All right, so let's look at the first one. So, this is an advertisement for Subway. It says Subway Eat Fresh, and it gives me a sub sandwich. So, write a little bit about this. Talk to me about what emotional appeals are being used here. What need is being met? And how are you supposed to feel when you see this advertisement? Okay, so I hope that you have thought about this for a little bit. So what I think about when I think when I see this advertisement is that this is so when I answer the question, what need is being met? So as a person, I might need to feel like I'm making healthy choices, right? I'm eating things that are good for me. So they're showing prominently peppers, onions, lean meats, right? Lettuce. So I want to eat healthy. This is helping me. Subway is going to help me do that. So this is going to appeal to my emotional need to eat healthy, to feel like I'm eating healthy. Now, you might see right through that. And one point I saw on Facebook, which I thought was funny, is that somebody had posted on Facebook, at some point Subway convinced us it was healthy to eat a whole loaf of bread, right? Because basically you look at those the buns and it looks like a whole baguette or whatever, right? That you would get at an Italian restaurant. So yeah, that's true. Subway is telling us it's healthy to eat a whole loaf of bread. But anyway, but yes, they're making this sandwich look very healthy. Also, I might have an emotional need as an American, and I think we do as Americans feel this way, is that we like value. We like to get the best bang for our buck, right? So what they've done here in this Subway ad is they've made the sandwich look quite large, right? I mean, this sandwich is bursting with ingredients. They've angled it in such a way that it looks like that it's this massive amount of ingredients, these big luscious delicious uh, tomatoes and all this lettuce and all these meats. And notice how they've made the meat layer look like it's more than the vegetable layer. So if you buy this relatively inexpensive sandwich, you're going to get the best value. You're going to get the most ingredients for your money. And I think that we as Americans like that. We like to get a lot for what we pay for, right? I mean, I do, right? When I go to a restaurant, if the portion sizes are kind of small, I think, well, that's not really worth what I paid for it, right? Sometimes. So we like that as Americans. So this is meeting that emotional need of us getting the best value and also eating healthy, right? How is this supposed to make you feel? Supposed to make me feel maybe happy. Maybe the color yellow makes me feel happy. Yellow is a happy color. It's supposed to make me feel hungry, right? This is, also it's showing me the food. It's showing me this big, delicious sandwich. So it's supposed to make me feel hungry. So that's another way it's appealing to my emotions. All right, let's look at another one. So this one says, you get more folks in a Volks. So think about that. Think about what need is this argument meeting, and how am I supposed to feel when I see this? Okay, so I hope that you have looked at that, and what I feel when I see this, the emotion that I feel, I think is sort of happiness, right? Uh, Relaxation. I'm supposed to feel relaxed. These people are obviously not people going to work, they're people who are going to go on vacation. I'm supposed to identify, yeah, I like vacations too. Yeah. And these people are all happy. I see the color red. Maybe the color red is making me feel happy. Maybe you might think that the color red is an angry color. Um, but what need is being met here? I think for me, the need that's being met is my emotional need to be around people, right? When I go on vacation, I like to have the whole family, right? There's not many people who like to go on vacation by themselves. They like to have a group, right? And I will often go on vacation with my family, or I'll go with some friends from work or some friends that I know. because when we're together, when we're around each other, we make each other laugh, we have a good time, right? So what this is saying is that if you buy a Volkswagen, you'll be able to fit everybody who you want to go on vacation, or everybody that you want to go on this trip with you. You'll be able to fit them and all their stuff, because guess what? There's room in this big vehicle for us, right? So I'm supposed to feel happy, I'm supposed to feel relaxed, maybe. This emotional need that this meets is my need to be together with lots and lots of people. All right, let's look at another one. So it says, if you wouldn't wear your dog, please don't wear any fur. So let's go ahead and talk about this one. Since we've sort of talked about fur already. But here, what specific emotion is this appealing to? Yeah, if you said love for your pets, yes, that's exactly. This is supposed to make you feel love for your pets, right? You might think about this is some actor from ER, I guess. This is also PETA. There's a lot from PETA here today, but yeah, you're gonna if you see this, you might think about your pet and think about how much you love your pet. So that's the feeling you're supposed to have. What emotional need? I think the same emotional need is is being met here as with the other two. This does this in a the emotion or the feeling you're supposed to get here is not being grossed out or thinking something's nasty, but love for your pet, right? So they're going about this in a different way, but it's the same message. I'm a person who doesn't like to see suffering and pain. I especially don't want to see suffering and pain in pets that I love, and my pets that I love. So if I don't wear fur, then it's sort of like I'm honoring or I'm showing that love to my pets, right? Maybe. It says, how can you speak up for animals? That's another uh, good emotional appeal. What appeal is, how can you speak up for animals? So I think as human beings, sometimes, especially in Western culture and in Christian culture, because we have that whole image of the Bible in the Bible where Adam was given dominion over the animals, and not so he could just do whatever the hell he wants, right? But it's so that he can protect the animals and be a caretaker for the animals. So we have that sort of feeling, maybe, as we need to speak up for animals because we are the protectors of animals. All right. Okay, what about this one? So this is an ad I think that we had here at the college. We had lots and lots of posters here at the college about stopping rape and sexual assault and sexual violence. So in this one says, when Jason wouldn't leave Mary alone, I said, she's not into you anymore. Let it go. This says, I'm the kind of guy who takes a stand. Where do you stand? Men can stop rape, men preventing sexism and sexual assault. So think about this. How are you supposed to feel when you see this? And what emotional need is being met by this argument? Who is this argument for? Think about who this argument is for as you answer this. Okay, so I hope that you had some time to think about that. So I think that this argument is for males. If men can stop rape, I mean, it's obvious. It's for males, and I think this plays on the emotional need that many males have to be protectors, to be someone who has character, right? I'm the kind of guy who takes a stand. Where do you stand? And this also, I think, plays a little bit on the emotion that sometimes males have of aggression, right? this is kind of a challenge. Like, notice how this one guy, how here in front, he's looking straight out at the person who is looking at the poster. And he sort of has this little smile on his face, but he doesn't look that too. I mean, he looks sort of like he's really intense. I mean, I think. So it's almost as if he's challenging me, right? It's almost as if he's challenging me as another guy. I'm the kind of guy who takes a stand. Where do you stand? So of course I'm going to rise up to meet the challenge, right? Maybe that's a stereotype about males, but I think, some stereotypes I think get to be stereotypes because there's an element of truth there, right? So I think that as guys, as men, we have this need to be protectors. We want to protect. So if Mary's not being left alone, if Mary's being harassed, I need to step in and take care of it. And we also have this, we're not going to let another guy be better than we are. So I'm the kind of guy who takes a stand. Where do you stand? Well, of course I'm going to take a stand because I'm not going to let this guy that's staring right out at me be better or more of a gentleman than I am, right? So I think that that's where this is going, and it'll be interesting to me to hear how other guys, how you feel about this, but also how do women feel about this? Do you think that this speaks to women in any way? Think about that. If you think about how it speaks to women, what do you think? It's you women out there who are looking at this. What do you think when you see this? How does it make you feel? What emotional need does it meet for you, if any? It may not. It may be something that's more effective as an argument for men than it is for women. I don't know. I'm not a woman, so I don't know. All right. So this one says, don't leave this precious face unprotected. This is from ADT. And you'll notice that this one has a lot of facts too. It has some features of the ADT system. It has some information there for you, but this picture, this is sort of making me feel as a parent, or if I were a parent, I would feel like, oh, I remember my children when they were that age, or my child is this age, and I want to protect. I have a need to protect as a parent. Yes. And it's down at the bottom there, it says help to stop crime before it happens. And I think that we also have a need as human beings to prevent things rather than to be preventative, I'll say, rather than be reactive, right? So rather than just react to crime when it happens, what can I do to prevent crime that makes me seem smart or feel like I'm smart, feel like I'm on top of my game, feel like I'm aware of my situation, feel like that I have things in control. When you can stop crime before it happens, then that's something you have controlled. And we like to feel, especially I think as people, I guess, we like to feel, I guess not especially as people, but just as people, we like to feel like we're in control of things, in control of our environment, in control of what happens to me. I'm in control of what happens to me. I'm not at the mercy of criminals. I'm not at the mercy of whatever, Joe Bob wants to come and try to break in my house. I have ADT. I've done some preventative action here, right? So this is supposed to make me feel, I think, love for my children, love for people or children in general, but also it's supposed to make me feel like if you buy ADT or if you make use of the system ADT, then you're a step ahead. You're in control of your own fate. And we like as human beings to be in control of our own fate. We don't like to just be at the mercy of whatever. All right, excellent. Let's talk now about ethos, or presentation of the self. So another way to appeal to an audience is to establish your good character as the writer, to present yourself well. As a writer, you should seem trustworthy. You need to show the reader you know what you're talking about, and you share some basic values. As a writer, you must establish your authority. So, ethos involves two different things. One is authority. And if you're authoritative about a topic, then you are knowledgeable about it. So, what you want to do when you argue is you want to show your reader that you know a lot about your topic, and you want to show your reader that you're credible. And when you are a credible person, you're sincere and honest. You have good intentions. You're not trying to get somebody to agree with you because of some nefarious purpose, or you're not trying to trick them or take advantage of them. You're actually presenting yourself as sincere and as honest. You have good intentions. You're trying to get them to see things this way or to believe this claim because you have their best interest in mind. So, how can you establish character? How can you use ethos? Well, one thing you can do is relate personal experience to the topic. So, here's again, narrative as means comes in. Talk about what you know, talk about how you gained your information, talk about what experience you have with the topic you're writing about. If you have any kind of training or education, or if you're part of any groups that allow you to be knowledgeable about your topic, tell those. It's not bragging. Sometimes this is difficult because people don't want to brag on themselves, but it's not bragging if you briefly include some things just to say, yeah, I know what I'm talking about, right? So if I'm arguing in an article or in an essay about the best way to teach English online, or about ways to teach English online, what I might first of all say is that I have a degree in English, right? I might first of all say, I have a degree in English. I might say I've taught English online. Those things are not bragging. They're just telling you what experience I have. So you know that, yeah, I'm coming from a place that's sincere and honest. I have had this experience. I do have these certain skills. You can use humor and a little bit of self deprecation. Do you know what self deprecation is? It's when you don't take yourself too seriously, when you sort of poke fun at yourself as well. You can do that. Make reasonable claims and use reasonable, trustworthy evidence. This is a big deal, this reasonable, trustworthy evidence. So, we're going to talk more about using evidence later. But you want to make sure that the sources that you use or the people you refer to, the people and the articles and the newspapers and the advertisements you refer to, are trustworthy and reliable. So I don't want to say, well, my second cousin said on Facebook that the vaccine has a microchip in it. You don't want to say that if you're trying to get people not to take the vaccine. What you want to do is you want to refer to some scientific evidence, right? Because your second cousin on Facebook, what do they know about the vaccine and about the whether it is effective or whether it is harmful or not? They don't, right? And if I think if you think about Nicki Minaj, she's gotten to some trouble recently about some misinformation that she had posted about being vaccinated, and she got in a little Twitter battle or whatever with some people who disagree with her. So what you can find that, look that up maybe if you want on Google it, and that was pretty interesting to me. But anyway, refer to the ideas of experts to show that you've done your research. This is how many people use ethos. They use experts. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. So, use the experts, use the top people who know about whatever your subject is, use their words, refer to what they have said. That shows that you have aligned yourself with those who know who are also authoritative about your topic, but that you also have done your research. Show how your beliefs relate to widely respected and well-established principles. So let me give you an example of this. So let's say that you want to write about marriage equality and how people of the same sex should be able to get married. Well, there are a lot of people who disagree with that. There are a lot of people who think that marriage is between a man and a woman. So, what you might do if you know that there are people in your audience who are firm believers that marriage is between one man and one woman, then what you might do to relate your belief to something that's widely respected is you might say something like, we as Americans believe in the right to life, to liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, when you stop right there, yes, whether I believe that marriage should be between a man and a woman, or marriage could be between any two people who want to be married, whichever side of that debate I'm on, I probably do believe that as an American, I have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So what you would do is you would go on in your argument to show how if two people who are in love cannot get married if they're the same sex, then they are not free. They do not have liberty. They do not have that right that I think that you've already told me and have already suggested and I've agreed with that all Americans should have. Then you're going to show me that there's a subset of Americans that do not have that right. That I think that's very powerful, right? So show how your beliefs relate to widely respected and well-established principles. Show respect for the reader. Don't. Speaking of marriage equality, or speaking of people who are against LGBTQ issues. Is anyone familiar with Taylor Swift's music video "Calm Down"? Even her song "Calm Down," right? So what she's done in that, you may like the song, that's fine, and you may like Taylor Swift. I like Taylor Swift. I think she's fine. But that song probably would not be good as an academic argument because she's not presented herself well with ethos. You can make the claim that she's not. You know why? Because she hasn't shown respect for her audience. She says in that song, and again, this is not an academic argument. It is a song. It does make an argument, though. But she's not shown respect to the reader, right? She sort of makes fun of people who don't believe in her views, and that's fine. You may think, well, good, the people who don't believe in rights for gay people, you might think they need to be made fun of, but that's not really how we do it in an academic argument. Okay, so watch that. So admit your limitations and acknowledge exceptions to your argument, and write clearly with few errors in grammar and mechanics. There is nothing that can turn a reader off than having to deal with several errors in grammar and mechanics, and hopefully we'll be able to work through some of those this semester if you have those in your writing. All right, so what I want to do, I know this video is getting long, but what I want to do is I want to look at each public figure, and I want to consider the character, credibility, and authority of each public figure. So two things I want to do. I want to describe an argument, so a campaign or a product, you should buy this or you should believe this, that would benefit from the endorsement of this figure, and also think about what audience would each appeal to. So to what audience would each appeal? Who is more likely to listen to this person? All right. So we'll look at these, and I'll give you a chance to look at a few of them and think about a few of them. So this is Robert Downey Jr. What do you think? Well, first of all, what argument would benefit from his endorsement? Well, maybe something to do with acting. Like if he has If he tells you that a movie is really acted well, you might want to go and see it because he's an actor. He knows about acting, right? We also know that Robert Downey Jr. had some trouble with some substance abuse. So if he wants to, and now he's doing better, and he's back on top again. So if you want to, if he wants to talk to you about this treatment or this rehabilitation system, you might listen to him because of that. Who would he appeal to? Who would be most likely to listen to him? Teenage boys, right? Maybe women who think he's attractive. Anybody who loves the Marvel movies, right? Because he's in the Marvel movies. Right. All right, let's look at another one. So this is Lizzo. So think about Lizzo. If you don't know who Lizzo is, she is a pop star. Think about what arguments would benefit from her endorsement, and also think about what to what audience would she appeal to. Think about this one. I'll let you write about this one for a little bit. All right. I hope that you have thought a little bit about Lizzo. So Lizzo is a pop star, so she would know about music, right? So if she says this is some good music to listen to, Lizzo is actually a trained flautist, right? She plays the flute, so she probably has some knowledge about all kinds of music. She is a style icon. So if she uses a certain beauty product, or she wears a certain designer, or if she uses or wears certain jewelry, that might be something that you might want to wear so that you can be stylish just like Lizzo. And to what audience would she appeal? I think she would appeal to women. I think she would appeal to people who want to be body positive, because she is not traditionally what people have thought is beautiful, or people have thought their celebrity should be, but she's out there and she doesn't care, and she's actually great. I mean, if I had a daughter, I mean, she does, her lyrics can be graphic sometimes, but if I had a daughter and she was listening to Lizzo, I probably would think that's just fine, because I mean, depending on her age, but because she's very positive. She's all about girl power, and I like that. I want to have a strong daughter, if I had a daughter. So I would say go for it. Listen to Lizzo. All right, let's look at another one here. What about SpongeBob SquarePants? Any kind of children's product, maybe, right? And people who would listen to SpongeBob? Kids, right? Excellent. I don't want this video to be 9 hours, so we might be moving through some of these a little bit quickly. Okay, what about Colin Kaepernick, I think? And I'm terrible with names, so. So write a little bit about him. What product could he endorse or campaign, and then who would listen to him? So hopefully you've had a little bit of time to write about Colin Kaepernick. So obviously he's a football player, right? So he would know about sports. He would know about products used by people who play sports. But to what audience would he appeal? I think you're going to see two different things here. I think that he would appeal to audiences to people who watch sports and who like football, right? They would recognize him and they would take his word for things. But I think he's also going to appeal to people who are activists, right? To people who take a stand or do something to publicly protest, right? So even if you don't know anything about football, or you don't like football, you don't like sports in general, you probably know who he is because of his activism. And whether you agree with him or not, he is a person who has staged a peaceful protest, right? So people who like that, or who like to stand up for what they believe in, they would probably he would probably appeal to those people as well. Okay, what about Chip and Joanna Gaines? They would probably know about what? Home improvement, maybe? People who like home improvement, women who sort of like to decorate, men who sort of like to do carpentry type things, do home product projects, DIYers would probably listen to them. They would probably have a lot to say to those people. So excellent. I think I have one more. Gordon Ramsay, food, obviously. He knows about food. To what audience would he appeal? People who watch reality TV, people who are interested in food, foodies, that kind of thing. All right, let's look at appeals to logic. So appeals to logic are probably used most often in academic arguments. I would still think, or still say, that advertisements and arguments out in the world use probably emotional arguments the most, then character arguments by referring to experts, right? And then logical arguments. But in academic arguments, we use logos the most. And they're probably the most effective because audience want to know what the facts are behind the argument being made. So when appealing to audiences logically, you want to use facts. It's important that the reader sees that these facts come from honest sources. You want to use statistics. And remember, when using statistics, they must always be interpreted and analyzed for the audience. You can't just give a statistic. You have to always explain what it means. Surveys and polls, these can be used to express opinion and fact, but be prepared to explain the particulars about the survey to the audience. Testimonies and narratives, recall narrative as means. So narrative as means can be an example of logos, pathos, or ethos. Cultural assumptions and values. When you appeal to values shared by a cultural group, you need much less formal support. Hence, I believe everyone, as an American, has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And then analogies. A great way to get your point across is to make a comparison. So let's just quickly look at the logical appeals in each of the following. Okay, so satisfries. So this is Burger King, right? Satisfries. What logical appeals are being used here? Okay, I think that this is definitely an analogy, right? And some statistics. These fries have 40% less fat. They're new, right? So new Satis fries at Burger King here, they have 40% less fat, 30% less calories. What question does this beg? What question do you want to ask after hearing this? My question is 40% less fat than what? Previous Burger King fries? 30% less calories than what? And if you read down at the bottom, it's kind of blurry so you can't see, but it says it's comparing Burger King fries to McDonald's French fries. So that's some important information. All right, let's look at another one. This used to be on Subway napkins. I don't know if it still is. This is an analogy, right? We're showing you it's facts. We're giving you all of the nutrition information, but then we're also showing an analogy of, well, the Veggie Delight, the roasted chicken breast, these are the fat grams versus in a Big Mac or a Whopper. This one uses some emotional appeals as well. Smoking kills, so why bother starting? But this gives us, the reason why I included this here is because it gives us a whole bunch of facts. Major cause of stroke. It's very addictive. Raises your blood pressure. Suppresses immune function. Dulls senses. Reduces stamina. Wrinkles your skin. Leads to depression, and so on. These are all kinds of facts. So these are facts that we're getting. Now, Aristotle's appeals work best when they're used together. So let's look at this advertisement. This is an advertisement for Got Milk. They did a lot of these. The milk producers, I guess, did a lot of these. This is Susie Orman. Does anyone know who Susie Orman is? If you don't know who she is a financial advisor. I think she had like a show on MSNBC or CNN or something like that where she would give financial advice. So think about this for a little bit and write about what logical appeals, what ethical appeals or ethos are being used, and what emotional appeals or pathos are being used here. I'll let you write a little bit about it and enter some things in online, and then we'll briefly talk about it because I want to, like I said before, not have this video be 9.5 hours long. Okay, so I hope that you have looked at the appeals to logic, character, and emotion. So before I said ethical appeals. So ethos, sometimes we say, is an ethical appeal. Now that's different than what we mean when we say ethics. Ethics is sort of like having morals, right, or having values. But when I say an ethical appeal, I mean an appeal to character or an appeal to ethos. Okay, I just wanted to explain that. So what are the logical appeals here? So I'm given that an 8-ounce glass of milk only costs about a quarter. This was in whatever year it was. Milk is one of the most nutrient rich items in your grocery cart. We have some ethical appeals, logic, or not logic, but appeals to character. This is an expert. This is Susie Orman is an expert on finances. So she's saying that milk is it's low cost and the benefits outweigh the cost. So that's using her character, her knowledge about financial and personal finance. And then emotional appeals, she says things like, drink up, you can't afford not to, right? So this is an emotional appeal would be that meeting my need as an American to not waste money, right? I want to be very thrifty and to not waste money, I want to get, again, the most bang for my buck. Oh, and I forgot to say also the character appeals, they're also referring to the USDA and the IRI, Nationwide Grocery Surveys. Those are referring to those organizations also would be an example of appeals to character or ethos. All right, excellent. So I hope you found this video helpful, and I will see you later.